What's up, Bridal Babes? I hope you're ready for another exciting episode of your favorite local wedding show, Bridal Buzz. I'm your host, Kat, and today we have a special episode prepared for you. We're here with Tammy from Bridal Photography, and she's going to talk all about her new book and podcast series, The Complete Guide to Wedding Photography. Quick shout out to our sponsor of today's episode, 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. You'll be hearing a little bit more about them later on. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, Tammy, thank you so much again for being here today. Let's just go ahead and get this episode started with you telling me a little bit about yourself and your history with your journey with photography.
Awesome. Well, my name is Tammy Blalock. I am the owner of Bridal Photography. I'm a mom. I have two daughters. They're women. I'm actually also a grandma. My daughter's names are Kiana Sierra. My grandson's name is Archie. He's about 18 months old, I think, without counting on my fingers. In my spare time, I like to hike, bike, cycle, camp, backpack, anything in the outdoors. I've had my business since 2010. I'm a certified wedding photographer through WPPI.
Tell me a little bit about what got you into photography.
I picked up my first digital camera when my daughters started playing youth sports. I wanted to help build their self-esteem because I had remembered when I was young and I started playing sports. Sports really helped me with my self-esteem and my confidence and my self-worth. When I would see pictures of myself playing sports, it kind of reinforced the image of myself that I was strong and athletic and gifted, and it made me see what
other people,
the popular kids saw in me. And when my kids started playing sports, I thought I knew how powerful those images could be, and so I wanted to give that gift to my girls and show them images of themselves in sporting situations where hopefully it could grow their self-confidence.
I love that. Tell me a little bit, if you could describe your approach, your style of photography in just a couple of words, what would it be?
Definitely, I am a photojournalistic wedding photographer. I let my couple's wedding days naturally unfold and happen organically. I am waiting for moments to happen. I'm not staging them. I'm not scripting them. I'm not trying to make the images better by putting brides or grooms in better light or putting them in situations where I know that I can make a better image, because I don't want to interfere with the memories that they're going to have from their wedding day. I want, when they look at the pictures, I remember how I felt. I remember what my mom was whispering in my ear as she was zipping up the back of my dress, or I remember what my dad was telling me when he came in for his first look. And I just don't want to interfere with any of that. So I let everything unfold. And if they ask me for direction, like, where should I stand? I just tell them, stand where you want to stand.
Yeah, letting the memories speak for themselves, not trying to curate a day that actually didn't even feel like that, right?
Yes. If they ask me a question, where should I stand? Where should I put on my shoes? Where should I put on my dress? I know that once they ask me for that first direction, it's not going to stop. So if they happen to ask me for advice at the beginning of the day, I just don't offer it. And then that way they don't look for me to me for direction the rest of the day.
They have to learn to be in the moment.
Right.
And that day goes by so quickly. It's not worth trying to get caught up in, should I face the right or the left because the light is hitting this way and, my freckle over here or something. It's like, you thinking about that for 2 minutes is 2 minutes you could have been spending being there in the present.
Right. And I didn't start out wedding photography like this. I started out wedding photography very much being in control. I wanted to control my images. I wanted to have 100% control of the way that image looked. But over time and learning from my mentors, I have really learned that you have to learn to let go. It's not your day. It is the couple's day. And it takes a much better wedding photographer to get good images when you let go of that control.
Yes. This is just an intro to the topics that you'll be covering in this book.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what inspired you to even create this. This is a plethora of knowledge here that anyone would be lucky to get their hands on. So what brought that into existence for you?
Well, I've always been a creative person. I can remember as early as 3rd grade loving to write like poems and things. So I've always been a creative person. But there was a year, and reflecting back, I think it was 2017, where I shot more weddings as a second shooter than I did for my own business as a lead shooter. And during that year, I just witnessed so many couples who seemed like their lead photographer just didn't invest any time educating them in terms of not creating obstacles for the photographers to have to work around. It just created more tension on the day. And that's the last thing that you want to do for any of your vendors on your wedding day, is to make their job harder.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I just thought, I've been doing this for so long. I know how much I invest into my own couples, trying to educate them prior to the wedding day so that they're not laying down little landmines for me to try to work around. I thought I can put all of the knowledge and information that I know into one tangible place that I can educate couples all over the world if they pick up this book and read it.
And so was this book built for just couples, or tell me a little bit about who else might benefit from this?
When I decided to write it, I envisioned it just for couples, but as I was writing it and building it and including all these different chapters, I realized that there was information in there that pretty much the entire wedding industry could learn from. Right. Planners, venue owners, any wedding, anyone who is involved in the couple on the wedding day, there's probably something in the book they can learn from.
Cool. All right, before we get into what is inside of this book, let me give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. They are San Antonio local, amazing drinks, incredible service, all TABC certified staff, of course. They are ready to be your bar service at your wedding, at your bridal shower, whatever event you need help serving drinks at, they got you covered. So check them out today on sanantonioweddings.com. That's 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. Okay, so why we're here today, the meat of the story, is what is inside this book. Give me a little summary, a little walkthrough of what couples, what planners, coordinators can expect to find within these pages.
Well, there are nearly 100 chapters. Most of them are one-page chapters.
Okay.
There are over 1,000 individual tips, tricks, or secrets.
Wow.
In regard to wedding photography. There is a 12-month narrative planning guideline for your wedding.
Wow.
And it's accompanied by a checklist that you can download on your phone, and it's interactive. So it's like an interactive PDF is what it is. You can take it on the go and have it with you all the time. You can also download it to your computer.
Love that.
There are 2 sample timelines in there, a 4-hour timeline. So if you're like doing an elopement or a micro wedding, there's a 4-hour timeline. And there is a 9.5-hour wedding timeline if you're doing a full day affair. There are, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but there are 10 interactive worksheets in there. So if you're attending a wedding show or an open house or multiple open houses, if you're interviewing photographers, there's 10 different interactive PDFs in there that you can access either the printed version in the book, or you can download via the QR code to your phone or your computer.
So cool.
And lastly, there is a glossary of common terms and acronyms in the book.
That is useful.
Yes.
I remember when I first got in the wedding industry, there were certain words where I was like, what is a bridal salon? Like, what does that even mean? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a wedding dress store? Like, okay, that's a very specific term I would have never thought to call a dress shop, but
that's not in there.
Oh, well,
I should
not really wedding photography related, but that was just one thing, like,
Mm-hmm.
and the bustling of the dress and like
Mhm.
all of these random things that you just don't know until you know. So building off of that, what do you think is the most beneficial thing about purchasing this book, about diving into your podcast series? What is that thing that's really gonna show couples like, okay, this is where I need to be, like this is a one-stop shop for all the information that I'm looking for in this topic?
Well, hopefully, if there's a couple who really cares about the images they're going to receive from their photographer and the experience that they're going to have with their wedding photographer, if that's important to them, it's basically, from A to Z, everything that they can expect to happen and experience with their photographer. The book even covers things like the contract, what you should expect, what clauses you should expect in your contract. And I even cover some clauses in there that if you see this clause in your contract, you should probably run away.
I feel like this is especially beneficial for couples who might be approaching their first wedding. I know, being recently engaged, even with years of experience in this industry, there's a lot you're learning for the first time when you are in the shoes yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about how those couples can use your resources to help themselves in that approach to their wedding.
Well, I think you said a minute ago, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And a lot of couples planning a wedding for the first time, they get a lot of information from Pinterest boards and Instagram. And I think they have a lot of times unrealistic expectations. They don't know how things actually happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes the captions are, for lack of a better word, just lies. And it's ill education for the couples. This book contains a lot of information. It's just truth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information in there that a lot of wedding photographers will be very happy that I'm sharing with couples, but there is also a lot of information in the book that there's a lot of wedding photographers don't want me letting couples know.
You are speaking the truth and you're not afraid to hold it back.
I wouldn't say that I'm not afraid.
But you're willing to face the fear.
I'm willing to share it because that's just the way I was raised. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
And the book is the truth.
I love that. Open book in person and on paper.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if there was one piece of advice that you could give to couples listening, couples interested in this book and your photography, about how to approach their wedding photography, or just how to feel about wedding photography in general, what is that piece of advice that you would give to the couples?
When they have narrowed down like their top 5 or top 10 list of favorite wedding photographers that they're considering for their wedding day, that they need to sort of forget about price for a little bit and figure out from their favorite photographers who is the most legitimate business owner.
Okay.
Who has a sales tax certificate.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So by Texas state law, photography is a taxable service. Even if you're not receiving printed product, if you're receiving digitals only, or even if you just go to a session, it should be taxed. And any photographer who does not have a sales tax certificate and is charging sales tax and then paying sales tax to the state of Texas is operating an illegal business. They're not contributing to our economy. They're a rebel. They're an outlaw.
Yeah.
They're Jesse James or
They're trying to get away with something.
Yes, they're receiving cash under the table. They're not a bona fide business. And I would say that would be the number one thing to look for. There's a public database that you can go to online, and you can search either by the photographer's name, if that's the way that they're running business, like Jane Doe Photography, or if they have a business entity, which if they do, like an LLC or a co or corporation or whatever, they probably have a sales tax certificate, but you can search for them by their business entity name. And it'll tell you if they're in good standing and how long that sales certificate has been in place. But I would say that would be the number one thing to look for, if they have a sales tax certificate. But some other things you can look for is do they have a website? A lot of photographers, their sole digital marketing is Instagram. Do they have a real email address? Do they have any sort of photography certifications? Do they participate in any professional organizations? Do they compete in like international image competitions?
Tell me about the value behind the competitions and the being a part of these networking groups and things like that.
Well, the networking groups is just a way to build your network. That is the way that I have met other photographers, so that I have a bank of second shooters when I need them, or God forbid, if I've never had to do this, but if I have a wedding day approaching and I were to get sick or to break a leg, or God forbid, pass away, I would have someone who could...
A backup plan.
Yeah. And there's even a clause in my contract that says, if I die before your wedding day,
oh my gosh,
this is who you contact.
Wow.
And it's one of my very good photography colleagues here in San Antonio.
And the industry is small too, so it adds this extra layer of almost like accountability, right, with the community of, if you do my client wrong, we're going to hear about it.
Oh, yes.
And I think when you are willing to put yourself out there and be a part of the industry on a public level, it's showing that I'm not afraid. I'm willing to be truthful about my practices, and I'm doing for my clients what I would want done for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to real quick answer your question about the image competitions, that is a way that I can ensure that my work is continually evolving, that I'm not getting stagnant in my work. And it's one thing to post an image to my Facebook feed and get 100 likes from my friends and family.
Yeah.
It is a whole nother ball game to submit an image to a competition where it's being judged by some of the very best wedding photographers in the entire world and hearing their feedback.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about some crushing news. Just to give you a reference, I've been a member of WPPI since about 2013. I've been competing in their image competitions, trying to work up to my master level accreditation with that organization. And I've probably submitted over 50 images, give or take. 4 of my images have merited.
Wow.
And I need one more point to reach the very, very first level. It's called an associate level with WPPI. And I'm going to WPPI actually in about a little less than 2 weeks. And I have 4 images in this year's competition. So I'm hoping that at least one of them merits, so I can get my associate.
We'll be rooting for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think that is an amazing piece of advice. Don't just be focused on price. Look at the whole big picture of who that photographer is.
Yes, I think price should actually be the last thing you look at. Like get your list of favorite photographers. See if they're running legitimate businesses, because the more legitimate they treat their business, the more legitimate they're going to treat their couples, the less chance that you're going to have of being dissatisfied in the end. And then see who's in your budget.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Tammy, thanks again. How can our couples find the book, find the podcast?
They can find everything at Complete Wedding Ed and ed as in education, completeweddinged.com.
And how often are you putting out new podcast episodes?
Generally, every Tuesday and Thursday, I release a new podcast episode at 6 a.m.
Cool.
Every once in a while, I don't meet my publishing
schedule,
schedule,
but
yeah.
People, you'll put it out there eventually,
Yes,
and they'll be
yes.
able to find lots of good information and learn alongside you in the
Yes.
process.
Yes, there's 48 episodes
Wow.
already up.
Perfect. That's amazing information, Bridal Babes. I think you guys are going to learn so much from Tammy, so much from the Complete Guide to Wedding Photography. You can either purchase it in book form or find her podcast series that has a lot to do with what is in this book.
There's also a Kindle format.
There you go. You digital readers out there, you got it covered there too. So don't forget, the buzz doesn't have to stop here. We are everywhere online. Tammy is also everywhere online with Attagirl Photography. And our sponsor for today, 18th Amendment Mobile Bar Service. Make sure you check them out on sanantonioweddings.com. And with that, we're closing for the week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.